Darkcast Network. Welcome to the dark side of podcasts.
Content warning ahead. This podcast contains very sensitive topics such as missing persons, unsolved cases, haunted houses, and paranormal activity. These type of topics can contain very upsetting, sensitive details and stories. Please listen responsibly. Welcome to Misty Mysteries, a podcast in the business of ghostly spooks and chilling crimes. I'm your host, Keely, and after a week off for vacation and then recovering from this cold thing I caught, I am so excited to be back hosting. And if I didn't say it enough, thank you so much to Steph for stepping in and being such a wonderful host for Misty Mysteries. If you haven't already, please check her out at Sinister Story Hour podcast. But let's get into this week's topic. This case was first shown to me by TikTok Murder News Made, although two podcasts, Black Girl Gone and Real Crime Profile, and their collab are my main source for this case, as well as an interview with Nancy Grace. Today's case is sadly the death of 3 young sisters, so I want to warn that this episode will talk about the death of children. With that said, I understand if you choose to come back for the next episode instead.
In August of 1980, Carol Bundy confessed her connection to the Sunset Strip Slayer who had been terrorizing Los Angelinos all summer.
In September of 2012, the cult of the Unification Church, also known as the Moonies, mourned the death of their leader, Sun Myung Moon.
Tune into Murder News every Friday to hear us detangle another twisted tale from true crime history.
If you're an amateur sleuth who hopes to someday solve a cold case or locate a missing person, tune into Murder News and start off your search with a deep dive into some fascinating and very solvable cases.
We always take a victim-first stance and like to focus on crimes affecting marginalized communities, which typically don't get enough media attention.
Subscribe to Murder News wherever you get your podcast to make sure you never miss an episode.
The 3 young girls I'll be talking about today are 9-year-old zi'arielrobinsonoliver, 8-year-old Amaya Hughes, and 5-year-old Tamari Robinson-Oliver. The 3 girls are sisters and 3 of 6 children to 28-year-old single mother Shomonique Oliver Wickerson. Their mother was the sole provider for her 6 kids, working late nights as a certified nursing assistant in a Texarkana nursing home a bit away from their home in Atlanta, Texas. Providing for her children and working meant that when she needed to work, the children had to have a safe place to be. And sadly for the 3 girls, the place that was supposed to be safe for them in the summer of 2022 wasn't what it was supposed to be. On July 29th, 2022, Shomonique left for her shift at the hospital around 1 p.m., leaving the 3 girls and their 3 siblings at home with Shomonique's 31-year-old cousin, Paris Props. At this moment, really not much is known about this cousin. We don't know if he had watched the kids before or if this was his first time, but for this family, everything changed that night. While at work, Shomonique called home around 5 p.m. to check in on her kids and to make sure they were eating dinner and to make sure that they knew their plans for bath and bedtime that night. On Crime Story Hours with Nancy Grace, Shomonique told Nancy Grace that when she called the kids, they were eating dinner and watching TV in her bedroom. So when she got a call at 9 p.m. that night from her cousin telling her that her kids were missing, she was overwhelmed with thoughts like, why was she being called first instead of the police? Why were the kids not in the home this late at night? And who was missing? Because from this call, she believed it was all of her children. Shomonique was set to get off work at 10 p.m. that night, but left as soon as this call happened. That night, she was driving home, just trying to get there and find her kids, while calling the police to report her kids missing, not knowing who was missing and when they went missing, and also trying to reach her aunt to get over to the house and help search for her kids. When Shomonique got home, she was able to see that her then 10-year-old, 3-year-old, and 1-year-old were safe at home, but Zi'ariel, Amaya, and Tamari were missing from the home. By 10 p.m., the police had arrived on scene with all the resources they could provide, including canine units, to begin the search for the 3 girls. Pretty quickly, the search was narrowed down only 200 feet from the home on a neighbor's property. There they found a pond and a pair of Tamari shoes stacked crisscross on the ground. Once the shoes were identified as Tamari's by her mother, they knew they needed to search closer to the water line, where they found footprints leading into the water, and then a dive team was called in to search the water. During the dive, Shomonique stood in her front yard watching the direction of the pond while the dive team went in. After about 45 minutes, one of the police officers came back to the house to tell Shomonique that they had found the body of a child in the pond. When she had the officer explain the child to her, she knew it was her 8-year-old daughter, Amaya. Then she asked and was shown pictures of clothing found in the pond. The picture showed winter coats she had thrown in the trash since they no longer fit the girls, tied up like rope. Hearing about the death of her daughter was not only tragic, but it sent Shomonique into her second heart attack. Shomonique had to be taken to the hospital. When she woke up, her aunt had to tell her that her other 2 girls, Zi'ariel and Tamari, were found in the pond with their sister. Shomonique was told that her daughters had accidentally drowned in the pond that night, and this is what the media shared for 8 months. But Shomonique had lived there her whole life. She never knew there was even a pond there. Her children knew they were not supposed to leave the house after dark, and she knew they would have never crossed dark woods and a field with horses and cows, which they knew was dangerous, to go to this pond that Shomonique and most likely the kids never even knew about. 9-year-old zi'arielrobinsonoliver, 8-year-old Amaya Hughes, and 5-year-old Tamari Robinson-Oliver. Funeral was held on August 13th, 2 weeks after this tragic event. During the funeral, the girls all had an open casket to allow those who loved them to see them once more before they were laid to rest. This open casket also allowed their mother and those who loved them to notice that Amaya and Tamari had busted lips. But even before Zi'ariel, her oldest, could have been shown, one side of her face needed to be reconstructed by the funeral home due to what looked like a severe beating that caused the severe lacerations. The 3 girls' true cause of death wasn't released until 8 months later, when their autopsy revealed that the 3 girls' cause of death was from strangulation. Now, this next sentence is very sensitive in topic. Even though the girls were found with clothing on in the pond, in her interview with Nancy Grace, Shomonique, when asked if she believed the girls were molested before their deaths, shared that from what she was told by the Texas Rangers in the autopsy report, all 3 girls had been before their deaths. When the Texas Rangers Sheriff's Office and District Attorney's Office announced that they were investigating the homicide of the 3 young girls, it left a lot of us wondering why it took 8 months. Specifically, why the autopsy took 8 months. The Texas Rangers have said that they have obtained multiple eyewitness statements and DNA testing is ongoing, but without communication from the lead on this case, Shomonique is left not only grieving half of her children, but struggling to understand where and when they are going to find justice for her daughters. Ultimately, on the night of July 29th, 2022, the 3 girls were strangled to death before someone had placed them in the pond. Today, there is no person of interest. The cousin who was babysitting that night has never been questioned. He and his mom refused to speak to the police or Shomonique since that night. And the girl's then 3-year-old sister has told Texas Rangers that she saw the cousin go into the woods with her sisters that night, but Shomonique has been told that the little sister is too young. Recently, on her first on-camera interview, Shomonique has shared that police had a DNA warrant for her cousin, but it was never executed when they had it. As we know, everyone is innocent until proven guilty, and Misty Mysteries is not implying but what I have found in my research. At the end of the day, it's just upsetting that 3 young girls lost their lives to senseless violence, and the treatment their mother has received through her grief in the fight for justice. If you do know something to bring Zi'ariel, Amaya, and Tamari justice, please call Texas Ranger Josh Mason at 903-255-5727. If you have social media, maybe you host a podcast or a YouTube channel for yourself, I urge that you please do the research and share the girls' stories. As for now, this Misty Mysteries episode is coming to an end. If you like this episode or this podcast, feedback and kind words are always welcomed on wherever you are listening or the podcast social media. If you have a case or an episode suggestion, please check out the forms available in the episode notes, and I will see you next week for more ghostly spooks and chilling crimes.